The first whispers of twilight always painted the Whisperwood Vale in hues no mortal artist could ever truly capture. Not with paints, nor with song, but with the very breath of magic that permeated every leaf and stone. It began as a deepening of the lavender skies above the ancient gnarled canopy, then slid down the trunks of the colossal dream oaks, their bark shimmering with latent light. It touched the undergrowth, where bioluminescent mosses pulsed a gentle rhythm, and the star lilies, their petals like fragments of fallen constellations, slowly unfurled to drink the silver luminescence of the rising moon. This was the hour Lyra loved best. When the air grew cool and sweet with the scent of night-blooming jasmine, and the earthy perfume of awakened roots, and the gentle hum of the Vale's ancient magic became almost audible, like 1,000 tiny bells ringing in perfect harmony. Lyra, with her hair the color of twilight shadows and eyes the deep, knowing green of the forest itself, understood this hum better than most. She could feel the pulse of the earth beneath her bare feet, the quiet conversation of the wind with the leaves, the sleepy sigh of the river as it tumbled over smooth, moon-kissed stones. She lived in a small, cozy dwelling nestled deep within the roots of the oldest dream oak, its branches reaching so high they seemed to brush the very stars. The walls were woven from supple willow branches and enchanted moss, warm in winter and cool in summer, smelling faintly of cedar and sun-dried herbs. Her days were spent learning the intricate language of the Vale, how to coax the sweetest melodies from the wind chimes crafted from hollowed moon reeds, how to gather the dew gems that formed on spiderwebs at dawn, how to read the stories etched into ancient stones by the first peoples of this land. Her guardian, Elara, was a woman whose skin was like polished wood, and whose eyes held the serene wisdom of 1,000 seasons. Elara taught Lyra not just the practical skills of living in the Vale, but the deeper magic, the art of listening, of understanding the unspoken truths that lay beneath the surface of the world. Elara believed that the true magic of Whisperwood was not in grand spells or flashy displays, but in the quiet interconnectedness of all things. Tonight, as Lyra sat on the mossy porch of their home, watching the first moon moths unfurl their iridescent wings and flit like living starlight through the gloom, a subtle discord reached her. It wasn't a sound, not exactly, but a faint, almost imperceptible tremor in the air, a minute skip in the Vale's gentle heartbeat. The star lilies, usually so eager to bloom, seemed hesitant, their luminescence a shade dimmer than usual. The moon moths, instead of their usual playful dances, drifted with a strange, aimless lassitude. Lyra frowned, her brow furrowing slightly. She closed her eyes, focusing, letting her senses stretch out into the deepening night. She felt for the familiar, steady rhythm of the Whisperwood, the deep, reassuring thrum that was its lifeblood. And there it was again, a tiny ripple, like a stone dropped into a perfectly still pond, disrupting the harmonious flow. It was distant, subtle, but undeniably present. "Something troubles the sleep song tonight, Elara," Lyra murmured, not opening her eyes. Elara, who had been stirring a fragrant herbal infusion over a small, glowing hearthstone, paused. Her movements were always deliberate, unhurried, yet filled with a quiet power. She turned, her gaze settling on Lyra, a knowing warmth in her ancient eyes. "Indeed, little sprout, you feel it too then?" Lyra nodded, finally opening her eyes. "The star lilies are shy, the moon moths are lost. It feels like a memory trying to surface, but struggling." Elara came to sit beside her, her presence radiating a calm strength. The scent of her herbal brew, elderflower, dreamroot, and a pinch of stardust, Lyra suspected, mingled with the night air. "The Vale remembers much, Lyra. It remembers the shifting of mountains, the whispers of forgotten winds, the slumber of ancient powers." "What kind of ancient powers?" Lyra asked, her voice hushed with curiosity. "Is it the slumber of the great tree of ages, whose roots reach to the very core of the world?" The great tree was a legend, a magnificent entity believed to be the source of all life and magic, though no one in living memory had ever seen it. Elara smiled softly, a hint of ancient melancholy in her gaze. "The great tree is indeed a heart of this world, child, but the world has other hearts, other guardians, some of them older than the oldest dream oak, deeper than the deepest wellspring of magic." She paused, stirring her brew slowly, the light from the hearthstone reflecting in her eyes. "There are tales whispered down through the ages, of a being that dreams beneath the earth, a guardian of the world's slumber, a protector of its deepest mysteries." "A guardian?" Lyra echoed, intrigued. What is it called? Elara shook her head gently. Its true name is not often spoken, for names hold power, and its power is immense. Some call it the Deep Sleeper, others the Earth Heart Keeper, but the oldest legends, those etched into the Moonstone scrolls, speak of it as the Serpent. Lyra's breath hitched slightly. Not a serpent like the small, harmless moss snakes that wound through the undergrowth, but something vast, ancient, powerful. The word conjured images of gleaming scales, immense coils, and eyes that held the wisdom of millennia. The serpent sleeps to keep the world in balance, Elara continued, her voice low and resonant. It dreams the world into being, maintaining the delicate thread between the waking and the slumbering realms. Its dreams are the rivers that flow, the mountains that stand, the magic that breathes life into everything we see and touch. And the tremor tonight? Lyra asked, her heart beating a little faster. Is the serpent stirring? Elara's gaze drifted up to the star-dusted canopy, her expression unreadable. Perhaps, or perhaps it is merely shifting in its slumber. An old dream ending, a new one beginning. The world is a living thing, Lyra, and even the deepest sleep is not entirely still. She took a sip of her brew, a faint sigh escaping her lips. However, the veil feels it, and when the veil feels something so deeply, it is always worth understanding. A thrill of adventure, mixed with a healthy dose of awe, ran through Lyra. Understanding. That was Elara's core teaching. Not to fear, but to understand. How do we understand it? Lyra asked, her green eyes bright with purpose. We listen, Elara replied, her gaze returning to Lyra. We watch. We seek the places where the veil between the waking and dreaming thins, the place where the whispers of the deep sleeper are strongest. She gestured with her chin towards the heart of the Whisperwood, a direction Lyra knew well. It led towards the sunken grove, a place of ancient moss-covered stones, and a shimmering moon pool, where the magic of the veil was said to be most concentrated. The moon pool, Lyra breathed. It was a sacred place, rarely visited, its waters said to reflect not just the stars, but the very essence of dreams. Yes. And the whispering stones that encircle it, Elara confirmed. They are the ears of the veil, Lyra. They remember everything. Go there at the height of the moon, when its silver light is purest. Listen to the stones, watch the waters, let the veil guide you. Lyra didn't need to be told twice. This was what she lived for, these moments of quiet exploration, of uncovering the hidden truths of her world. She felt a deep, instinctive pull towards the sunken grove. It wasn't fear, but a sense of profound significance, as if the very air hummed with an impending revelation. She rose, grabbing her small woven satchel and the glowing lantern she'd crafted from a petrified glowworm casing. It cast a soft, pulsing light, enough to illuminate her path without disturbing the delicate ecosystem of the night. I will be careful, Elara. I know you will, little sprout, Elara said, her voice warm. Remember, the world is not always what it seems in the bright light of day. The night reveals its true tapestry. With a final nod, Lyra stepped off the porch and into the embrace of the Whisperwood night. The path she took was familiar, worn smooth by generations of feet, though few ventured this deep after dusk. The air grew cooler, thicker, imbued with an almost tangible sense of ancient magic. The dream oaks seemed to lean in, their vast branches creating tunnels of dappled moonlight and deep shadow. The bioluminescent mosses pulsed brighter here, painting the forest floor in shifting patterns of emerald and sapphire. Tiny, shimmering sprites no bigger than Lyra's thumb darted past, their laughter like the tinkling of crystal bells. Lyra knew them well. They were the guardians of the flowering vines, the polyfae, guiding the moon moths to their nectar-rich blooms. Tonight, their laughter seemed a little more subdued, their flight patterns less erratic, as if they too sensed the subtle shift in the veil's magic. Deeper she went, past the shimmering waterfalls that fed the silken river, past the ancient, moss-covered monoliths that marked the boundaries of the wildwood, a place few dared to enter. The trees here were older, their roots like immense, gnarled fingers clutching the earth. Their leaves, Lyra knew, held the memories of seasons long past, echoing with the whispers of forgotten creatures and ancient events. Finally, she arrived at the sunken grove. It was not a clearing but a natural amphitheater where the ground dipped gently, surrounded by a ring of colossal, smooth, gray stones, the Whispering Stones. They stood taller than 2 men, their surfaces worn smooth by countless rains and winds, yet pulsing faintly with an inner light, as if they absorbed and reflected the moon's energy. In the very center of the grove lay the moon pool, a circular body of water so still and clear it seemed like a window into another sky. Tonight the moon, a perfect silver disk, hung directly overhead, its light pouring into the pool, making the surface glow with an ethereal luminescence. Lyra approached the edge of the moon pool, her footsteps hushed on the soft dewy moss. She knelt, peering into the depths. The water was impossibly clear, and she could see the smooth, dark stones that formed its bottom, adorned with glowing aquatic flora that swayed gently with unseen currents. The reflection of the moon was so perfect, so vibrant, that it felt as though she could reach in and pluck it from the water. But it wasn't the reflection that caught her eye. It was something within the water. A faint, shimmering pattern, like ripples of pure energy, began to form and dissipate, only to reform again. It wasn't the wind, for the air was still. It wasn't a creature, for there was no physical disturbance. It was a movement of light deep beneath the surface, a slow, deliberate undulation. Lyra reached out a hand, hovering it just above the water. A surge of energy, cool and vibrant, passed into her fingertips. It hummed, a low, resonant frequency that vibrated through her bones, settling deep in her chest. It was the same tremor she had felt back at her home, but here, it was magnified, clearer, more profound. She closed her eyes again, letting her senses expand. She listened to the whispering stones. At first, there was only the familiar, deep hum of their ancient sentience, a comforting presence. But as she focused, allowing her own mind to quiet, she began to discern something else. Not words, but impressions. Images, fleeting and dreamlike, began to bloom in her mind. She saw a vast, dark expanse, stretching further than the eye could see. And within that darkness, a colossal form, coiled and serene, its scales shimmering with the colors of the cosmos itself, deep blues, purples, greens shot through with streaks of starlight. It was not moving, not truly, but seemed to breathe, its slow, immense inhalations and exhalations causing the very fabric of the darkness to ripple. Then, a sense of deep, profound peace washed over her, a serenity so absolute it brought tears to her eyes. It was the peace of ages, of a being that had witnessed the birth and death of worlds, and still chose to dream. This was the Serpent. Not fearsome, not threatening, but a presence of unimaginable power and stillness. But then, the image flickered. The profound peace was subtly disturbed. A faint, almost imperceptible shadow passed over the cosmic scales. A fleeting sense of discomforty died, like a deep sleeper stirring from a long, sweet dream and finding a tiny pebble beneath their sleep mat. It wasn't pain, not yet, but an irritation, a nascent unease. The ripple in the moon pool intensified, glowing brighter, forming more distinct patterns. Lyra opened her eyes, gasping softly. The patterns were not random. They were forming shapes, symbols she had seen etched into the oldest moonstone scrolls in Elara's library, ancient glyphs that spoke of balance, of awakening, of deep earth. And woven within these glyphs, like threads of shimmering silver, was an image, a long, sinuous form, its head crowned with faint, glowing horns, its eyes closed in profound slumber. It was definitely the Serpent. And then one symbol flared brighter than the rest, pulsing with an urgent, almost desperate light. It was the glyph for unbalances. Lyra's heart pounded. Unbalance. 30. 1 to a. The Serpent was not just stirring, something was disturbing its sleep. And if the guardian of the world's slumber was disturbed, what did that mean for the world itself? As she watched, mesmerized, the light in the moon pool pulsed one last time, then, slowly, reluctantly, began to fade. The patterns dissolved, the shimmering image of the Serpent retracted, and the water returned to its perfect mirror-like stillness, reflecting only the moon and the stars. The whispering stones, too, fell silent, their inner light dimming to a soft glow. The intense energy that had permeated the grove began to recede, leaving Lyra feeling both exhilarated and profoundly alone in the vastness of the silent night. She knew, with a certainty that resonated deep within her soul, that this was only the beginning. The whisper she had felt back at her home was now a clear message. The serpent was indeed stirring, and it was not merely a shift in its dreams. Something was wrong. And somehow, in this vast and ancient world, she, Lyra, a small girl from the Whisperwood Vale, had been given the first glimpse of its awakening. The question now was, what did the serpent need? And how could she, or anyone, help a being of such immense cosmic power? The moon, now high above, seemed to watch her with a knowing eye, its silver light bathing the sunken grove in a cloak of profound mystery. The path ahead was unknown, shrouded in the shifting mists of ancient dreams and awakening power, but Lyra felt a burgeoning resolve, a quiet determination to understand the message she had received. The sleep song of the Vale had been troubled, and Lyra knew, with all her heart, that she could not rest until its harmony was restored. The moon, now high above, seemed to watch her with a knowing eye, its silver light bathing the sunken grove in a cloak of profound mystery. The path ahead was unknown, shrouded in the shifting mists of ancient dreams and awakening power, but Lyra felt a burgeoning resolve, a quiet determination to understand the message she had received. The sleep song of the Vale had been troubled, and Lyra knew with all her heart that she could not rest until its harmony was restored. A soft, almost imperceptible hum vibrated through the earth beneath Lyra's bare feet, a resonance that echoed the subtle tremor in her own spirit. It was the Vale itself, stirring in its slumber, its ancient roots reaching out, not in distress, but in a quiet plea. The air, cool and sweet, with the scent of night-blooming jasmine and damp earth, seemed to shimmer with an unseen energy, like a veil between worlds grown thin. Lyra took a deep breath, the subtle magic filling her lungs, awakening senses she hadn't known she possessed. She could feel the intricate network of roots beneath her, the slow pulse of sap in the towering trees, the distant murmur of the Whisperwind River as it snaked through the valley. The moon's light intensified, painting the gnarled branches of the sunken grove's ancient trees with liquid silver. One particular path, previously unseen, now gleamed faintly, winding away from the heart of the grove and deeper into the surrounding forest. It wasn't a path made by footsteps, but by a luminescence woven into the very moss and pebbles, a silent invitation. Lyra hesitated for only a moment, then, with a newfound certainty in her stride, stepped onto the shimmering trail. As she walked, the forest around her began to transform. The trees grew taller, their canopies so dense that only slivers of moonlight dappled the forest floor, creating a mosaic of light and shadow. Strange, bioluminescent fungi pulsed with soft, warm glows, illuminating her way with ethereal blues and purples. Fireflies, not just simple insects but tiny, sentient sparks of light, danced in intricate patterns, mirroring the constellations above. They seemed to greet her, swirling around her head like a living crown before darting off ahead, beckoning her onward. The hum grew stronger, evolving into a faint melodic thrumming that resonated deep within Lyra's chest. It was the troubled sleep song, yes, but now she heard its layers, its underlying harmony struggling beneath a veil of static, like a beautiful instrument played through a heavy mist. Her own heart beat in rhythm with it, a connection forged in the silence of the sunken grove. The shimmering path led her to a clearing, a vast, circular space, dominated by a single colossal tree. It was an ancient willow, its branches not merely drooping, but weeping, in cascades of shimmering, translucent leaves that seemed to capture and hold the moonlight. Its trunk was wider than any Lyra had ever seen, gnarled and silvered with age, etched with symbols that seemed to shift and reform before her eyes. As she approached, the leaves of the willows stirred, not with the wind, but with an internal sigh, and a soft luminous mist began to coalesce from their depths. From this mist, a figure slowly emerged. It was ethereal, woven from moonlight and shadow, with eyes like twin pools reflecting the stars. It had the delicate, shifting form of a large moth, its wings patterned with constellations, yet it stood with an ancient grace, radiating profound wisdom. This was no ordinary creature. This was a moonweaver, a guardian of the Vale's celestial connections. "Welcome, Moonchild." The moonweaver's voice was like the gentle rustle of leaves in a soft breeze, carrying with it echoes of forgotten dreams. "We have awaited you. The Vale stirs, and the heart song calls for its awakening." Lyra felt a shiver of recognition, a sense of having always known this ethereal being. The sleep song. It is troubled, she whispered, her voice barely audible in the sacred quiet. I heard its plea. What must I do? The Moonweaver unfolded one shimmering wing, revealing intricate patterns of swirling nebulae dot. The Vale's sleep song is but an echo of its true self, its heart song. For eons, the Vale has danced in harmony with the Moon Mother, drawing strength and dreams from her silver light. But the connection has faded like a forgotten melody. The heart song has grown dim, and the sleep song falters. Lyra's brow furrowed. Faded, but why? Time, Lyra, and the slow forgetting of ancient ways, the Moonweaver replied, its voice tinged with a gentle melancholy. The beings of the Vale once nurtured this bond, singing the Moon Mother's lullabies, tending to the celestial anchors. But the songs grew quiet, the anchors slept, and the vibrant thread that bound the Vale to the cosmos thinned. The cosmic power you felt is this thread, Lyra, sensing your own nascent connection, stirring within you like a dormant seed. Lyra looked down at her hands, a faint, silvery glow now visible beneath her skin, pulsing faintly with her heartbeat. My connection? You are a moon child, born under a rare conjunction of celestial alignments, carrying within you a resonance with the Moon Mother's light, the Moonweaver explained, its eyes seeming to peer into her very soul. You are the key to reweaving the faded thread, to rekindling the heart song. How? Lyra asked, a surge of determination overriding her awe. Deep within the Vale, there lies a place where the Moon Mother's light falls purest, a sacred site known as the Starstone Altar, the Moonweaver began. It is an ancient monument, carved from moon-kissed quartz, designed to gather and amplify the celestial energies. For centuries, it has lain dormant, its power untapped. Your first task, Moonchild, is to awaken the Starstone Altar. Lyra listened intently, her mind racing. And how do I awaken it? You must bring to it the first tear of the moondew, the Moonweaver intoned, its shimmering form seeming to grow in stature. It is a single radiant droplet of dew, found only at the highest point of the Whisperwind Peaks, on the night of the moonbloom. This is the very night we are now upon, Lyra. Though the hour grows late, the moonbloom is a rare flower that unfurls only when the Moon Mother's light is strongest, absorbing her essence into its heart. Its first tear, shed at dawn, holds the concentrated essence of her dreams. The Whisperwind Peaks are far, Lyra said, remembering the towering, mist-shrouded mountains that rose majestically on the Vale's northern horizon. And dawn is not long from now. Indeed, the Moonweaver acknowledged. But the heart song cannot wait. The path to the peaks is perilous for those without the Moon Mother's favor. But you, Lyra, carry her light. Follow the ancient currents of the Whisperwind River. It will guide you. Listen to the mountain's song and trust in the awakening power within you. With a final gentle rustle of its luminous wings, the Moonweaver began to dissipate, slowly dissolving back into the shimmering mist, leaving behind only the profound scent of night-blooming jasmine and the echo of its words. Lyra stood alone in the clearing, the ancient willow weeping its silent, luminous tears around her. The task was clear, the path daunting, but the resolve in her heart burned brighter than ever. She turned, leaving the ancient willow and the Moonweaver's clearing behind. The shimmering path continued, now leading her directly towards the faint roar of the Whisperwind River. As she drew closer, the sound grew from a murmur to a powerful rush, a constant, soothing rumble that vibrated through the earth. The river itself was a magnificent sight under the moonlight, its waters a deep, inky black, yet somehow reflecting the moon's silver light in 1,000 dancing points, like scattered diamonds. Mist rose from its surface in ethereal plumes, catching the moonlight and swirling like phantom dancers. Following the river's bank, Lyra noticed a subtle change in her perception. The forest, though still dense, seemed to part for her, branches gently swaying aside, roots offering themselves as natural steps. Her bare feet, rather than feeling the rough ground, now seemed to glide over moss and smooth stones, as if the very earth wished to ease her journey. Her senses were sharper. She could discern the soft rustle of tiny creatures in the undergrowth, the distinct scent of each flower, the faint, shimmering trails left by unseen night sprites. The path began a gradual ascent, leading her higher and higher along the river's winding course. The air grew cooler, thinner, carrying with it the crisp, clean scent of pine and distant snow. The trees here were different, ancient firs and cedars, their branches heavy with hoary moss, like old men draped in green beards. They seemed to watch her with silent, knowing eyes, their presence a comforting, watchful one. After what felt like hours, though her sense of time was blurring in this magical night, Lyra reached a point where the river plunged into a deep gorge, its roar intensifying to a thunderous symphony. Here the shimmering path ended at a natural bridge, a colossal, fallen tree trunk, its bark worn smooth by centuries of wind and rain, now covered in the same luminous moss that had guided her from the sunken grove. Hesitantly, Lyra stepped onto the bridge. The gorge below was a dizzying chasm of swirling mist and shadow, the river a silver ribbon far, far beneath. A gust of wind, cold and strong, swept through the gorge, making the ancient log sway slightly. Lyra stumbled, her heart leaping into her throat. But as she instinctively reached out, her hands didn't grasp rough bark. Instead, a soft, silvery light pulsed from her palms, and a faint, shimmering shield of energy seemed to coalesce around her, steadying her. The wind, which moments before had threatened to dislodge her, now felt like a gentle push, guiding her forward. Her awakening power. It was responding to her need, her resolve. A quiet confidence bloomed within her. She continued across the bridge, her steps surer, the glowing shield around her a warm, comforting embrace against the chill wind. On the other side, the path continued its upward climb, leading her out of the deep river valley and onto the lower slopes of the Whisperwind peaks. The trees here thinned out, replaced by rugged granite slopes dotted with hardy, wind-stunted shrubs. The air was truly crisp now, carrying the faint, metallic scent of rock and snow. The moon, directly overhead, seemed impossibly close, its light so brilliant it cast sharp, defined shadows. Lyra looked up, and for a moment she felt as if she could reach out and touch its cratered surface. The mountain's song the Moonweaver had spoken of wasn't a melody, Lyra realized, but a feeling. A deep, resonant hum that vibrated through the very rock, guiding her. She found herself scrambling up steep scree slopes, her feet finding purchase on seemingly impossible footholds. Her stamina seemed boundless, her breath never faltering despite the altitude. The silvery glow beneath her skin was now a constant, gentle warmth, invigorating her. As she ascended higher, the world below her spread out like a vast, star-dusted tapestry. The vale stretched out, a dark, undulating landscape pierced by the distant, shimmering glow of the sunken grove. The Whisperwind River was a silver thread, glinting under the Moonmother's gaze. Above, the stars were countless, cold and brilliant, closer than she had ever seen them. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Lyra reached the summit. It wasn't a sharp peak, but a broad, flat plateau, windswept and barren, yet radiating an ancient power. In its very center stood a single magnificent flower, and it was the moonbloom. Its petals, as wide as Lyra's outstretched hand, were a luminous, iridescent white, shimmering with all the colors of the aurora borealis. It pulsed with a soft inner light, its delicate form seemingly impervious to the biting wind. The scent it exuded was unlike anything Lyra had ever smelled, a concentrated essence of moonlight and dreams, sweet and intoxicating, filling her with a profound sense of peace. And there, nestled deep within its glowing heart, was a single, perfect droplet of dew, shimmering with an otherworldly radiance. It was the first tear of the moondew. Lyra approached the moonbloom with reverence, her heart overflowing with awe. The dawn was still some time away, the sky just beginning to hint at the faintest blush of purple on the eastern horizon. She knew she had to collect the tear before the sun touched it, before its magic faded. Carefully, so as not to disturb the delicate petals, Lyra reached out a trembling finger. As her skin brushed the tear, a jolt of pure celestial energy coursed through her. It wasn't painful, but exhilarating, like liquid starlight flowing into her veins. The tear adhered to her fingertip, a tiny glowing orb, impossibly bright. It felt warm, alive, pulsing with the very essence of the Moonmother's dreams. With the first tear safely collected, Lyra knew her next destination. The Starstone Altar. The Moonweaver had described it as deep within the veil. She had to descend, taking a different, more direct route, guided now by an inner compass that hummed with the tier's magic. The descent was swifter, though no less challenging. The moon, now beginning its slow dip towards the western horizon, cast long, dramatic shadows. Lyra found a narrow, winding path, almost a goat track, that seemed to respond to her presence, making the rough terrain easier to navigate. The air grew warmer with each step down, the scents of pine and rock gradually replaced by the familiar perfumes of the lower forests. As the first faint light of dawn painted the eastern sky in hues of rose and gold, Lyra emerged from the foothills into a wide, open valley she hadn't seen before. It was a place of serene beauty, dotted with ancient, moss-covered stones and gentle streams that sparkled in the nascent light. And in the very center, rising from a perfectly circular clearing, stood the Starstone altar. It was indeed magnificent. A towering monolith of pure milky white quartz, its surface smooth and polished, etched with swirling celestial patterns that glowed faintly, even in the approaching daylight. Around its base were smaller, equally luminous stones, arranged in a perfect circle, like silent sentinels. The air here vibrated with a palpable energy, a quiet, expectant hum. Lyra walked towards the altar, her heart pounding with a mix of exhaustion and profound anticipation. The first tear of the moon dew on her fingertip pulsed with renewed intensity, eager to fulfill its purpose. As she approached the central monolith, she saw a shallow, perfectly smooth indentation at its apex, perfectly shaped to receive a single precious drop. With a deep breath, Lyra raised her hand, the tear glowing like a captured star. As she gently placed it into the indentation, a wave of profound energy washed over her, a connection deeper than anything she had ever experienced. The tear dissolved instantly into the quartz, and the entire Starstone altar pulsed with an incandescent silver light, so bright Lyra had to shield her eyes. The light surged upwards, a pillar of pure moonlight piercing the fading night sky, reaching for the still visible crescent of the Moonmother. A sound, deep and resonant, began to emanate from the altar, a note so pure it felt like it was playing directly inside her soul. It was the heart song, Awakening. The ground beneath her feet began to thrum, a gentle vibration that spread outwards across the valley, carrying the newly awakened heart song. The smaller stones around the altar began to glow in response, their light rippling across the clearing, waking the very earth. Lyra felt the energy flow through her, connecting her to the altar, to the veil, to the Moonmother above. She saw with her inner eye shimmering threads of light extending from the altar, weaving themselves back into the fabric of the veil, repairing the ancient forgotten connections. The sleep song, which had been troubled, now swelled with a renewed clarity, a deeper, richer harmony joining its gentle melody. It was no longer just a soothing lullaby, but a symphony of life, a vibrant song of interconnectedness. Lyra closed her eyes, letting the music wash over her, feeling the veil breathe with a renewed vigor, a deeper dream. When she opened her eyes again, the sun had fully risen, painting the sky with fiery golds and soft pinks. The Starstone altar still glowed, though more subtly now, its light shimmering with the golden hues of dawn. The air was alive with renewed energy, and the distant hum of the Val's heart song resonated with profound peace. Lyra felt lighter, stronger, her mind clearer than ever before. The cosmic power she had glimpsed was not a separate entity, but the lifeblood of the veil, now flowing freely, once more. But as she stood there, bathed in the combined light of dawn and the altar's glow, a new understanding settled upon her. The Starstone altar was just one anchor, one heart node in the vast tapestry of the veil. Its awakening had brought great strength, but the full harmony of the sleep song still had notes to find, melodies to mend. The vision she received was fleeting, of other places in the veil, other ancient sites, perhaps slumbering, perhaps waiting for her touch. The path ahead was still long, Lyra realized, but no longer unknown. She was a conduit, a reweaver of celestial threads, and the heart song of the veil now whispered her name, guiding her towards the next ancient melody waiting to be rekindled. Her journey, the true journey of a moonchild, had only just begun. Her journey, the true journey of a moonchild, had only just begun. Lyra felt the echo of the awakened sight, thrumming beneath her bare feet, a quiet, satisfied hum that resonated with the beat of her own heart. The air itself tasted sweeter, alive with a renewed energy that shimmered like heat haze over a summer meadow. She closed her eyes, letting the afterglow of the vision settle, sifting through the fleeting images until one began to coalesce, shimmering with a distinct, silvery light. It wasn't a grand spire or a deep cavern, but a place of gentle flowing water, she realized, and ancient, gnarled roots. A memory of soundless whispers, a melody lost not to silence, but to a dull murmur, like a distant river choked with silt. The heart song, now a clearer chorus within her, nudged her westward, towards the oldest, most secretive heart of the Whisperwood, where the trees grew so tall, their crowns kissed the stars even in daylight. With a deep breath, Lyra gathered her simple satchel, which felt lighter now, as if infused with the same renewed magic. The path behind her, once uncertain, now gleamed with purpose. She began to walk, following the subtle pull, a feeling akin to an invisible thread drawing her deeper into the vale. The Whisperwood was unlike any forest Lyra had ever known. The trees here were not merely ancient, they were gildersig, their bark etched with patterns that resembled forgotten runes, their branches reaching out like gnarled, knowing arms. Sunlight dappled through the dense canopy in shifting pools of emerald and gold, illuminating patches of moss that glowed with an inner, soft luminescence. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth, sweet honeysuckle, and something else, a faint, almost imperceptible hum that seemed to emanate from the very roots of the world. As she delved deeper, the sounds of the outer vale faded, replaced by the symphony of the forest. The rustle of unseen creatures in the undergrowth, the gentle whisper of leaves conversing in the breeze, the distant bell-like calls of the skylarks high above. Lyra found herself listening with a new kind of attention, not just with her ears, but with her whole being. The heart song of the vale was a constant companion now, a gentle murmur in her soul, pointing the way with subtle shifts in feeling, a warmth in her chest, a sparkle in the air. Days blended into a shimmering ribbon of green and light. Lyra drank from crystal-clear streams, their waters tasting of pure starlight. She feasted on berries that glowed softly in the twilight and roots that offered a surprising sweetness. She slept beneath the watchful gaze of the elder trees, wrapped in the comforting embrace of their ancient wisdom, and woke each morning feeling refreshed, her path clearer than before. One evening, as the twin moons, Lumina and Lunara, began their ascent, painting the forest in shades of silver and deep indigo, Lyra came across a clearing unlike any other. It was a circle of ancient, standing stones, each one taller than 3 men, their surfaces smooth and worn by millennia of wind and rain. In the center, a pool of water shimmered, reflecting the moons with perfect clarity. This was not the sight she saw, she knew, but it hummed with a different kind of power, a place of quiet contemplation. As she approached, a small creature, no bigger than her hand, darted out from behind one of the stones. It had fur like spun moonlight, large, intelligent eyes that glowed with a faint violet light, and delicate, translucent wings that fluttered with a sound like tiny bells. It was a Lumina sprite, a rare and shy guardian of places of moon magic. The sprite regarded her with an intensity that belied its size, its tiny head tilted. Then, with a soft chirp, it zipped around her, drawing a shimmering circle in the air with its glowing wings. Lyra understood. This was a place of reflection, a threshold. To pass, one must offer a truth. She sat by the edge of the pool, gazing at her own reflection, made ethereal by the moonlight. What truth did she carry? My truth, she whispered to the still water, is that I am afraid, sometimes. Afraid of the power that flows through me, afraid of the enormity of what I must do. But my greater truth is that I must do it, for the vale, for the heart song. As the words left her lips, the surface of the pool rippled, not from a breeze, but from an inner light. The Lumina sprite chirped again, a sound of approval, and then with a final graceful swirl, it melted back into the shadows behind the stones. The air around her felt lighter, as if a silent question had been answered. The path ahead, though still hidden, felt more welcoming. The next few days saw Lyra navigating increasingly dense thickets, where the trees grew so close their branches intertwined, forming living tunnels. Here, the air was cool and damp, and the ground was a soft carpet of moss and fallen leaves. The whispers of the heart song grew stronger, a persistent, gentle pull that felt like a familiar hand guiding her. She noticed subtle changes in the flora. Flowers bloomed with petals that seemed to pulse with faint light, and vines bore berries that shimmered with an inner dew. The very air began to carry a faint metallic scent, like rain on ancient stone, mixed with the damp sweetness of moss. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of walking through the deep green heart of the Whisperwood, Lyra emerged into a clearing unlike any she had seen before. It was a bowl-shaped hollow, ringed by the oldest, most colossal trees in the vale, their trunks so wide it would take 10 people to link hands around them. Their lowest branches, thick as lesser trees, dipped so low they nearly touched the ground, creating a secluded, almost sacred space. In the center of this hallowed grove lay the source of the magnetic pull she had felt. It was a spring, but not an ordinary one. Water welled up from a deep, unseen source, not in a rushing torrent, but in a slow, deliberate cadence, forming a perfectly still obsidian black pool. Around its edges, ancient stones, smooth and dark, formed a natural basin, carved with symbols that seemed to writhe and shift in her peripheral vision. Swirling lines, concentric circles, patterns that mirrored the flow of water and the intricate dance of moonlight. This was the fountain of remembrance, she knew, though no one had spoken its name to her. The heart song within her resonated with a deep, mournful sigh here. The spring's melody, the vision had shown her, was not broken, but dulled, its vibrant song muted to a somber murmur. It was meant to be a living library, a repository of the Vale's deepest memories, its ancient stories, its very essence. But now it merely reflected the sky, silent and unyielding. Lyra approached the edge of the pool, her footsteps muffled by the thick moss. The air here was heavy with a sense of immense age, of countless ages gone by, of secrets held captive beneath the dark water. She knelt, peering into its depths. There was no reflection of her own face, only an endless inky blackness that seemed to absorb all light, even the soft glow from the luminous moss around the stones. It was as if the fountain of remembrance had forgotten how to reflect, how to share its stories. She reached out a hand, hovering it just above the water's surface. A faint chill emanated from it, not cold, but a profound emptiness. This was a place of memory, yet it seemed to have lost its own. The heart-song's sorrow deepened within her, a quiet ache that mirrored the Vale's own loss. To reawaken the fountain, she realized, she needed to remind it. To help it remember. But how does one awaken memory in a spring of ancient water? Lyra closed her eyes, letting her senses expand. She could feel the intricate network of roots beneath the earth, the slow, deliberate pulse of magic flowing through the Vale's ley lines. The fountain of remembrance was a node, a central point where these energies converged, but it was like a forgotten chamber, sealed off from its own power. She placed both hands flat on the smooth, cool stone rim of the spring, pressing her palms against the ancient glyphs. She focused, not on channeling power, Wintai the spring, but on listening. Listening to the echoes that might still linger, the faint whispers of what once was. She thought of the Vale. Its soaring mountains, its deep, whispering rivers, its luminous forests, its shy creatures, its vibrant flora. She thought of the Moonweaver's loom, now reawakened, and the feeling of the celestial threads humming under her touch. She thought of the Moon Children who came before her, their sacrifices, their dedication. She let her own memories, her own experiences within the Vale, flow through her, not as a force, but as an offering. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, a faint warmth began to spread from her hands, seeping into the ancient stone. The darkness of the pool seemed to stir, a ripple beneath its surface that wasn't caused by wind or touch. It was as if the water itself was taking a deep, shuddering breath. Lyra began to hum, a low, wordless melody that rose from the deepest parts of her soul. It was the music of the heart song, the tune she had heard in her dreams, the melody that was now a part of her. She let it flow, pure and unadulterated, into the fountain. As her song continued, a faint, silvery light began to bloom beneath the dark surface of the water, like distant stars slowly emerging from a moonless sky. The symbols carved into the stones around the basin began to pulse, their intricate lines glowing with a soft internal luminescence. The metallic scent in the air intensified, mingled now with the fresh scent of spring rain and blossoming earth. The light in the pool grew stronger, a swirling vortex of silver and deep sapphire. Images began to form within its depths, ephemeral and dreamlike, like mist catching the morning sun. Lyra saw glimpses of the Vale's history. Ancient moon children tending to luminous gardens, creatures of myth soaring through skies long past, the first great trees taking root, mountains rising from the primordial mist. These were not mere reflections, they were living memories projected from the awakening heart of the spring. Her voice swelled, imbued with the joy of discovery and the profound connection she felt. She was not just singing Chito the fountain, she was singing Jawithicat, harmonizing with the ancient current that was finally finding its voice again. The water, once still and dark, began to churn gently, forming miniature whirlpools that spun with shimmering light. From its depths, tiny, luminous motes of light, like living stardust, began to rise, swirling upwards before dissipating into the air, carrying faint, joyous echoes with them. The fountain of remembrance was waking. Its song was not a loud one, but a deep, resonant hum, a thrumming vibration that resonated through the earth, through the trees, and through Lyra herself. It was the sound of all memories, all stories, all knowledge flowing freely once more. A river of consciousness connecting every living thing in the vale. As the last note of her song faded, the light in the pool settled. It was no longer obsidian black, but a deep, shimmering sapphire, clear and inviting. And now, Lyra could see her own reflection, bright and true, mirrored perfectly on its surface, superimposed over the faint, swirling images of the vale's past. She saw not just herself, but the echo of the moonchild she was becoming, strong and resolute. The air around the fountain vibrated with a gentle, joyful energy. The elder trees surrounding the grove seemed to sigh contentedly, their ancient leaves rustling with renewed vigor. The heart song within Lyra soared, a triumphant chorus that filled her with warmth and profound peace. She had done it. She had helped the fountain remember its true purpose, rekindling its vital melody. As she stood, stretching her stiff limbs, a new vision shimmered before her, clearer and more vivid than the last. It was a place of soaring heights, of windswept peaks and crystalline air. A beacon, perhaps, or a watchtower, standing sentinel over the vale. It pulsed with a faint, steady rhythm, like a sleeping heart awaiting its awakening. The path, she knew, would lead upwards, towards the sky, towards the next ancient melody waiting to be rekindled. The journey continued, ever guided by the whispers of the heart song, deeper into the wondrous heart of the vale. Lyra awoke with the image of the soaring peak imprinted behind her eyelids, a silent, powerful call. The air in her small, sheltered nook felt suddenly too still, too low. She packed her meager belongings, a warm cloak, dried berries, a small water skin, with a renewed sense of purpose. The sun was just painting the eastern sky in hues of rose and gold as she began her ascent. The path was indeed upward, steep and winding, often disappearing beneath scree or dense thickets of wind-stunted pines. The earth beneath her boots changed from soft forest loam to gritty gravel, then to solid, ancient rock. The air grew thinner, crisper, carrying the scent of pine needles and something else, a clean, cold mineral tang that spoke of raw stone and distant ice. As she climbed higher, the trees receded, replaced by hardy, low-growing shrubs clinging to crevices, their leaves polished by the incessant wind. She saw mountain goats with their shaggy coats and wise, amber eyes, watching her from impossible ledges. They seemed to nod in silent acknowledgement of her journey, their presence a comforting, wild company. The dream beacon grew clearer with every switchback. It wasn't a mere tower, but a colossal spire of dark, gleaming stone, intricately carved with swirling patterns that seemed to mimic the very currents of the wind. It rose from the highest peak like a silent, petrified tree, its crown reaching towards the heavens. There was no visible path directly to its summit, only a dizzying array of ledges and crumbling stairs spiraling around its base. Hours turned into a full day of arduous climbing. The sun dipped below the western horizon, painting the sky in fiery oranges and deep purples, but Lyra pressed on, guided now by the faint, rhythmic pulse she felt in her very bones, the sleeping heart of the beacon. Moonlight, sharp and clear at this altitude, illuminated her final steps. She reached a wide, wind-swept plateau just beneath the beacon's base. The structure loomed above her, magnificent and impossibly old. Its surface was pitted by millennia of wind and rain, but the intricate carvings still held a faint inner luminescence, like embers barely clinging to life. She could hear the wind sighing through unseen vents, a mournful, hollow sound that echoed the beacon's slumber. The heart song's whisper intensified here, a soft hum that emanated from a specific point on the beacon's base. It was a circular indentation, filled with what looked like petrified wood, but on closer inspection, it was a complex lattice of interwoven roots, hardened and transformed into stone, yet still retaining a hint of their original organic form. This was it. The place where the melody waited. Lyra reached out, her fingers tracing the patterns of the stone roots. As her hand connected, a jolt, not of electricity but of pure, resonant sound, passed through her. The air around her shimmered. She closed her eyes, focusing, letting the heart song guide her. The melody of the beacon was a song of clarity and watchfulness. It was the sound of distant bells ringing through mountain air, of the wind singing over sharp ridges, of starlight gleaming on untouched snow. It spoke of vigilance, of seeing far and true, of guarding against shadows that might creep into the vale. Lyra began to sing. Her voice, usually soft, took on a surprising strength, a clear, pure tone that resonated with the mountain air. She didn't consciously choose the notes, they flowed through her, an echo of the ancient song she was rediscovering. As she sang, the stone roots beneath her hand began to glow, a soft, pulsating azure. The luminescence spread, creeping up the beacon's colossal spire, chasing away the shadows of ages. With each note, the beacon seemed to awaken. The carved patterns flared with light, moving like living currents across its surface. The mournful sigh of the wind transformed into a deep, resonant hum, a vibration that Lyra felt deep within her chest. The very air around the peak crackled with renewed energy. Finally, with a crescendo that swelled through the entire vale, Lyra finished. The beacon was alive. A brilliant beam of azure light shot from its crown, piercing the night sky, a steady, unwavering sentinel. It didn't just illuminate the immediate surroundings, it seemed to gather distant starlight, focusing it, amplifying it, projecting it across the vast expanse of the vale. The effect was immediate and profound. Below in the distant valleys, Lyra saw pinpricks of light bloom, hearth fires perhaps, or the soft glow of lanterns, suddenly brighter, more hopeful. The entire vale seemed to sigh in collective relief, a vast, unconscious awakening. The air felt lighter, cleaner, imbued with a fresh sense of purpose. Lyra stood, breathless, watching the magnificent display. The beacon pulsed with quiet power, its light, a comforting presence against the dark canvas of the night. Her own voice felt raw, but her heart swelled with a profound sense of accomplishment. She had rekindled another piece of the vale's ancient soul. As the last echoes of her song faded, the heart song, now stronger and more vibrant, began to speak to her in a new way. It wasn't just a whisper of direction, it was a murmur of ancient knowledge, a glimpse into the vale's deeper mysteries. The vale is a living tapestry. It resonated within her mind, woven from earth and sky, water and spirit. Each melody is a thread, each beacon a knot in the weave. But the tapestry is frayed, its colors dulled, its strength weakened. The heart song is the loom, the source of all threads, and it too slumbers, awaiting the full chorus. Unwind. The image of the vale as a living being, its essence held in these ancient songs, filled Lyra with awe. She understood now, with a clarity as sharp as the mountain air, that she wasn't just restoring old tunes, she was healing the very soul of the land. And then, the next vision. Not a dream image this time, but a shimmering projection of pure light that formed directly before her, drawn from the beacon's newly awakened power. It was not a peak, nor a tower, but a swirling vortex of mist and rainbows, nestled deep within a hidden valley. Water cascaded down unseen cliffs, forming a tranquil, shimmering lake at its heart. Above the lake, a colossal, ancient tree, its branches reaching like gnarled arms towards the sky, its leaves glowing with an ethereal emerald light. This was the heart of the vale. The source. The final melody. The heart song's whisper, now a clear, resonant voice within her, pointed the way. Ye-to the deepest valley, where water meets root, and the ancient tree breathes the vale's true essence. There, the weaver's rest awaits its final awakening. Unatantantan. The weaver's rest, Lyra murmured, the words feeling ancient and significant on her tongue. It was not just a destination, it was a promise. She knew with unwavering certainty that this was the end of her journey, the place where all the melodies would converge. The dawn broke, painting the eastern sky in hues of soft lavender and gold. Lyra looked out over the vale, now bathed in the gentle, watchful glow of the azure beacon. A sense of peace settled over her. The journey would be long, but the path was clear. Descending from the beacon was almost as challenging as the ascent, but Lyra felt a new lightness in her step, a quiet power thrumming beneath her skin. She carried the clarity of the mountain air and the purpose of the beacon's light with her. The journey to the Weaver's Rest was unlike any she had undertaken so far. The heart song guided her not along established paths, but through hidden glades, ancient underground tunnels, and across shimmering, mist-veiled rivers. It was a journey into the very depths of the Vale, a descent from the heights of clarity to the hidden heart of magic. She passed through forests where trees grew so tall, their crowns touched the clouds, their bark covered in soft bioluminescent moss that pulsed gently in the dim light. Strange, shy creatures peered at her from between ancient roots, iridescent beetles, their shells like polished gems, small, winged sprites with eyes like dewdrops, flitting through the leaves. The air grew heavy with the scent of damp earth, sweet blossoms, and something else, an ancient, untamed magic that made the hairs on her arms tingle. The mist intensified, swirling around her ankles, sometimes parting to reveal glimpses of wonders. A waterfall that flowed upwards for a moment before descending. Stones that hummed with quiet energy, flowers that bloomed and faded in the space of a single breath. The heart song became her constant companion, a melody woven into the very fabric of her being. It guided her past illusory pathways, through whispering groves that sought to confuse, and around slumbering guardians, colossal, moss-covered stone figures that seemed to breathe with the rhythm of the earth. She offered them a silent bow of respect, feeling their ancient power hum in response. Days blurred into a timeless journey. She ate wild berries that tasted of sunlight and starlight, drank from streams that sang with their own gentle music. Her senses sharpened, her connection to the Vale deepened with every step. She felt the pulse of the earth beneath her feet, the whisper of the wind through the leaves, the distant thrum of the Weaver's Rest drawing her ever closer. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the mist began to thin, revealing a sight that made Lyra gasp aloud. She stood on the edge of a vast hidden valley, a bowl carved by untold ages of magic and water. The air here was warm and humid, carrying the scent of rich earth and blooming night flowers. Water cascaded down sheer, moss-covered cliffs on all sides, converging into a breathtakingly beautiful, shimmering lake at the valley's heart. Rainbows danced in the spray, painting ephemeral arches across the mist. And there, rising majestically from the center of the lake, was the colossal, ancient tree from her vision. Its trunk was wider than any she had ever seen, gnarled and textured like weathered stone, yet clearly alive. Its roots plunged deep into the lake, creating a network of shadowy channels beneath the water. Its branches, impossibly vast, spread outwards, forming a living canopy that almost touched the valley walls. And its leaves, they glowed with an ethereal emerald light, a soft pulsating radiance that illuminated the entire valley. This was the Weaver's Rest, the heart of the Vale. As Lyra stepped into the valley, the air around her hummed with an almost overwhelming surge of magic. The heart song, now a full vibrant chorus within her, resonated with every fiber of her being. It was here, she knew, that the final melody awaited. She found a narrow winding path that led down to the lake's edge. The water was crystal clear, reflecting the glowing leaves of the great tree like 1,000 scattered emeralds. Small luminous fish darted through its depths. At the very base of the ancient tree, where its colossal roots met the water, there was a small natural alcove. And within that alcove, carved into the living wood itself, was a hollow. It was perfectly circular, smooth and polished, and at its center rested a single, perfect seed. It wasn't just any seed. It pulsed with a soft golden light, a miniature sun resting within the heart of the great tree. Lyra knew, instinctively, that this was the final melody. The heart song explained, "This is the seed of life, the weaver's loom, the root from which all melodies spring. It is the song of beginnings, of growth, of enduring life. It has slumbered, protected, awaiting the full chorus to awaken it." Lyra approached the alcove, her heart pounding with a mixture of reverence and anticipation. This was it. The culmination of her journey. The moment she had been unknowingly preparing for her entire life. She reached out a trembling hand, not to touch the seed directly, but to cup the air around it. The golden light intensified, warming her palms, sending a gentle tremor through her entire body. The heart song surged, no longer a guide, but a symphony, a complete, flowing river of sound that poured through her. The melody of the seed of life was the song of gay pure creation and eternal renewal. It was the sound of a spring bubbling forth from the earth, of a seed cracking open to embrace the light, of a new dawn painting the horizon. It was the rhythm of breath, the pulse of existence, the gentle hum of all life unfolding. Lyra took a deep breath and began to sing. Her voice, this time, was not just her own. It was a conduit. No? Anin ma nemu, awarim mai. The songs of the Whispering Falls, the sunken garden, the azure beacon, all the melodies she had rekindled, flowed through her, weaving together into a single magnificent tapestry of sound. Her voice became the chorus, a vessel for the Vale's awakened spirit. As she sang, the golden seed began to glow with blinding intensity. Its light pulsed in time with her song, expanding, filling the alcove, then the entire valley. The emerald leaves of the great tree flared brighter, their light intermingling with the golden glow of the seed, creating a breathtaking display of living light. The lake itself began to shimmer and hum, its surface rippling with golden and emerald light. The cascading waterfalls seemed to sing along, their spray catching the light and transforming into shimmering ribbons of pure magic. Lyra felt herself dissolving, not in a fearful way, but as if her individual essence was merging with the vast ancient spirit of the Vale. She was no longer just Lyra, she was a part of the heart song, a note in its grand symphony. With a final, soaring note that resonated through every particle of the valley, Lyra's song reached its crescendo. The golden seed, now a miniature sun, lifted gently from its alcove, hovering in the air before the great tree. Then, with a gentle silent etope, it dissolved into a shower of golden motes, which swirled upwards, spiraling around the colossal trunk of the Weaver's Rest. As the golden motes ascended, they met the emerald light of the leaves, merging, intertwining, creating a breathtaking aurora of living color that danced across the entire canopy. The great tree pulsed, not just with light but with a palpable, vibrant energy that flowed outwards beyond the valley, beyond the mountains, reaching every corner of the Vale. The heart song, now fully awakened, did not just hum, it sang. It was the sound of all life, all magic, all beauty, harmonizing in perfect unison. It was the voice of the Vale, vibrant and whole once more. Lyra felt the change ripple through the land. The distant beacon on the highest peak flared even brighter, its azure beam now imbued with a gentle golden warmth. The sunken garden below pulsed with renewed verdant life, its flowers blooming in impossible colors. The Whispering Falls sang with a clearer, sweeter voice. The Vale was transformed. Not in a dramatic, world-shaking way, but subtly, profoundly. The air felt cleaner, the colors richer, the very essence of life more vibrant. A sense of deep abiding peace settled over the land, a promise of renewal and enduring magic. Lyra, standing before the now fully awakened Weaver's Rest, felt herself gently drift back into her own body. The overwhelming connection receded, leaving her with a profound sense of awe and a quiet, inner radiance. She was still Lyra, but she was also more. She had become a part of the Vale's awakening, a guardian of its song. The great tree, the Weaver's Rest, now glowed with a steady, magnificent light, its emerald leaves shimmering, its ancient roots pulsing with golden energy deep within the lake. It was the heart of the Vale, beating strong and true. Lyra knew her quest was complete. The melodies were rekindled, the heart song was fully awake, and the Vale was restored to its true, vibrant self. There was no grand reward, no earthly treasure, only the profound satisfaction of a task beautifully done, and the quiet joy of a world made whole. She spent a little more time in the valley, simply basking in the incredible energy, feeling the pulse of the renewed Vale. The luminous fish in the lake seemed to dance in celebration, and the air sprites zipped through the branches of the Weaver's Rest, their tiny wings catching the emerald golden light. As evening approached, a gentle silvery mist began to rise from the lake, carrying with it the most beautiful lullaby Lyra had ever heard, the heart song, now singing a soft, comforting melody of peace and contentment. It was a song for all creatures of the Vale, a promise of safety and wonder. Lyra knew it was time to go home. Her journey had changed her, deepened her connection to the world, and shown her the immense power that lay within quiet purpose and a pure heart. She would carry the heart song within her always, a secret melody guiding her steps, reminding her of the magic that permeates every corner of the world, even the most ordinary ones. She ascended out of the valley, following the whispers of the now gentle, loving heart song. The path home felt lighter, imbued with a new sense of meaning. She imagined the children of the Vale, tucked into their beds, dreaming peaceful dreams under the watchful, comforting glow of the azure beacon and the vibrant hum of the awakened land. And as Lyra finally reached her own small familiar dwelling, the moon, full and bright, cast a silvery glow over the now radiant vale. She looked up at the stars, feeling the silent symphony of the universe, and knew that the heart song would continue to sing. Forever now, a lullaby for the ages, keeping the vale safe, vibrant, and eternally magical. She lay down, pulling her cloak around her, and closed her eyes. The whispers of the heart song filled her dreams, not as a quest, but as a gentle, loving melody, a promise that all was well in the wondrous heart of the vale. And with a contented sigh, Lyra drifted into a deep, peaceful sleep, a true guardian of the vale's awakened song.